Hey everyone, it's been a while. Welcome back to Searching for History. Today I'm in rural Thurston County, not far north of Rochester, hunting for another ghost town. And this one has almost completely disappeared. It's called Gate, or Gate City, as it's called on old maps. Gate City was once known as the gateway to the coast. This was a booming railroad and logging hub. By the 1940s, fires, economic panic, and the end of the timber boom had wiped it out. But one survivor remains, and it's still the center of this community. But let's see what we can find. Gate was platted in 1890 by Sam Woodruff of Olympia, right here, where the Northern Pacific Railroad passes through this valley near the confluence of the Black and the Chehalis River. Founded around 1881, it exploded in the late 1800s and early 1900s as logging camps and sawmills shipped timber west to Grays Harbor. The Northern Pacific extended its line to Grays Harbor in 1890 and 1891. A junction was made here to build to Centralia and connect with the Portland line. Gate City Lumber Company had a sawmill, planing and shingle mill at Gate. As far as I can tell, it had one depot, at least 4 stores, a blacksmith shop, at least 1 saloon, at least 2 restaurants, and a large hotel. The panic of 1893 slowed things down. Fires ripped through in 1902 and 1918, and the main sawmill closed in 1913. By the 1940s, the timber was gone, cars replaced trains, and people had moved on. The post office stayed open until 1970, but the town itself, it vanished. Right here where Moon Road meets Hunter Road, you can still see 2 sets of railroad tracks and this old gate sign marking the location of the old depot. So right behind me is where the old depot was located. A 1917 station map shows a full town grid, streets and lots platted, all the way from here down to the Black River, and all around these fields here were all platted lots and streets. Today, it's just quiet fields and oak woodlands and this train track that's right here. And it still looks like it's been used recently, so I think trains are still coming through here. Let's look around and see if we can find some of the locations of the buildings and structures that are located on the 1917 station map. So right here at the corner of 168th Avenue and Moon Road, there was a store there. And then on this side of the street, there was a store with an attached shed. And then right next to it, so right over there, was a saloon and a restaurant. Let's see what else I have on my notes here. Right there on the right, where those Douglas fir trees are, that would have been the location of another store. So right about here would have been the post office. And maybe right about where you see that speed limit 35 sign, a little bit closer, that was the location of a house or a freight house. It's labeled house on the station map. Kind of straight that way, right where Hunter Road is, there was a restaurant. And then over where Moon Road and Hunter Road come together, that was the location of another store. I'll get a little closer. You can see that a little closer up. Yeah, basically over there next to that Doug fir is where the restaurant would have been. And then right here, just behind that telephone pole, is where the store would have been on the corner. There's a few more spots to look at. I'm gonna hop in my Jeep and we'll drive around and take a quick look. One thing I should point out, so you have the 2 main tracks that come through. But there's actually a siding, so a track that would go off from the main tracks and then come back to it, kind of to help facilitate, loading and unloading freight and passengers here in the town. The siding started way down there and came around basically where you see the brush and the trees and the Scotch broom, and then continued on and rejoined the main line, a distance down that way. I'm driving down 168th Avenue. It's a short distance from the center of Gate. So right up here, the station map shows basically where these Himalayan blackberry bushes are. Between here and the railroad tracks was a bunkhouse, a shed, and it's an unknown structure. It's not labeled, but now we'll go look at the other side, the Hunter Road side. All right, we're driving down Hunter Road. Let's see. The 1917 station map has a structure that I think was called the cooling platform. The reason why I say I think is because it's hard to read the writing. And that would have been right here. This is a guess, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that's where milk was brought, and when it would wait for the train, it was in the shade on this platform. Maybe there was ice to keep the milk cool. I'm not really sure how that works. If anybody understands how a cooling platform would have worked, let me know in the comments below. There were a few unknown structures along here. I say unknown again because they're shown on the station map, but they weren't labeled. Let's see, about right here is where the water tank would have been. So that's where an engine would come in to fill up with water so they could keep making steam. And that was off of a siding that ran right along here. I think there was one more thing on this side that I may have passed. I'll have to go back. So those hills up there, they're called the Black Hills, and that's where the timber would have been coming out of. Okay, I know what it was. And they're just right up here. It's actually two structures. Okay, so the station map shows a barn right on this side of the road, of Hunter Road. And then here, there's a cattle chute. And so that's how cattle, I assume they would come from the barn, and then they would walk them across and they would load them onto trains right here at the cattle chute. So let's take a quick drive down Home Road. I'll show you guys a couple more locations that were part of Gate City. This is the approximate location of a hotel, and then right up here, kind of right where this building is where the Japanese bunkhouse was. And then kind of straight over there was something called the Cinder Platform. I'm not really sure what that is, and I'm not sure whose land that is today, so I'm not gonna go and try to find out if it's still there, but I have a hunch that it was a compacted byproduct from burning coal, and it was an elevated platform for boarding the train going south to Centralia. We'll go to the last location where the station map has some structures, and then we'll go to the last place that survived. Okay, right here in this field, so there was actually another railroad line that came in from Mima, actually from Olympia. It shows on the station map, right about there, a bunkhouse, a couple unknown structures, so they're not labeled, and then a short distance away, it shows a smaller structure labeled toilet. All right, let's go see what actually has survived. Behind me here is the Gate City Schoolhouse. It was built in 1910 as a one-room school for District 9. It's the only remaining structure that I'm aware of from the original town. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1990 as part of the Rural Public Schools in Washington. It's a perfect example of early 20th century rural school. Simple wood frame, tall double-hung windows, and that iconic cupola that held the school bell. And if I film you?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, the schoolhouse was built in 1910.
All right.
And it was an active school until about the 1940s. Come on in. After it closed in the 40s, it lay boarded up and kind of abandoned for quite a while. And then we luckily, some of the neighborhood homemaker groups came in and needed a place to do some of their quilting. And we've got some of their sample quilts and stuff up. And they took the boards off the windows and they came in and they made quilts and they auctioned them off enough to make enough money. And they brought the building back to life. And
Nice.
It's been fantastic with some of the contributions of some of the neighbors. We've opened it back up and now it's a community center. Yeah, the floors are original. Some of the desks back here are also original to the schoolhouse. This is the original teacher's desk. The chalkboards are all still original slate. They're original to the building. And I've kind of set up a little timeline of photos up here. The city of Gate kind of lived and breathed with the railroad.
Yeah.
So this is one of two railroad stations that we had here in Gate. They're just down at the crossroads there.
Okay, so there were two.
There were two. This is a history book that was written by somebody locally. And she has this really great map in here that I love.
Okay.
Where she went around and talked to a lot of the local people. So our little school is here.
Right.
So there's Depot 2.
Okay, that's the one that's on the station map I have.
Yeah, and the other one...
Oh, down here.
Yes, there you go. There is a road.
Yeah, I drove down there. Yeah.
But it doesn't look quite the same because there was sawmills and there was hotels and saloons and there was like a skating rink at one time, but it was a very big hoppin' town in its day.
Yeah, it's really amazing how you can have a town like this and it's just gone.
So these are some of the buildings that were in downtown Gate
All right.
at the time, which is really cool. I like this one especially because it's just a couple years apart and you can see how the businesses change in the same building.
Okay.
So that next one is the high school, which isn't there anymore. They built it on a very temporary foundation. And so pretty quickly after they built it, it started falling over.
Oh, that's too bad.
So they propped it up with logs for a lot of years. And then when other people bought the property, they knocked it down and used the lumber to build their own places. That's one of the high school classes. And then this is our first year of kids here at Gate.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
that next picture is Becky Hunter. She's my favorite school teacher here.
All right.
With her little pistol and everything. Her relatives still live in the neighborhood. They donated that picture. I don't know much else about her. I know she was a school teacher for 6 months, and then they fired her because she got married. Can't be a school teacher and be married in those days.
That's true. Yeah, that's not proper.
Kind of to finish it up, the last steam engine that came through Gate.
Okay.
And this little girl still lives here. She comes to some of our potlucks. So she donated that photo.
Nice. What was your name again?
Andrew.
Andrew.
I'm the
And
caretaker here.
you're the caretaker? And is this building available to rent or use?
It is.
Okay. So do you know, was there an earlier school at this location or is this the first school built right here?
It's the first school in this location.
Okay. I know back in the day, sometimes schools were also used as churches.
This one wasn't, as far as I know.
Okay.
There was enough churches in town that they didn't need to overlap.
All right.
Yeah. In the early days, the school teachers, and I like to tell this when the kids come here, the school teachers would stay with the kids on kind of a revolving schedule because they didn't have their own house. So I would say, your teacher, you know how much you like them, how'd you like them?
So they would live with families rather than here, like here at the school somewhere.
In the early days.
Okay.
As Gate got established, they did build their own houses, and they had a house specifically for the school teachers.
Okay.
It used to be heated by a great big potbelly stove that was here, and this little back area was for wood storage. The kitchen has been since added on. The bathroom has also been added on because there was just obviously an outhouse at the time.
Okay.
Oh, don't forget to I'll ring the bell for you when we get done.
Okay.
That's my favorite part.
So there's still a bell up there.
The original bell is still up there.
Gate City is a classic Washington boom and bust story. Railroad, timber, fires, and time has erased it. It truly is a ghost town. There just isn't anything left except this schoolhouse. If you're in Thurston County, stop by the old school and ponder the mysteries of a vanished town. Thanks for watching Searching for History. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us what vanished town that you visited and you want us to explore next. See you later. Well, thank you for humoring me and
Absolutely.
being on this episode of Searching for History.
Okay, you want to ring it out with the bell?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.